Hello, everybody. Good to be here. It's another Friday. Now, let's see if I can get this name right. This is the Beyond Belief Sobriety live stream, a brand new name. And I have to tell you, it's like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders having that name as opposed to having the AA in there, because it's not that I'm against AA whatsoever, but I just feel freer to be me and to talk about whatever I want to. And so welcome to Beyond Belief Sobriety. Oh, Angela, how you doing over there?
I'm doing okay. Been a crazy week, but yeah, hanging in there.
Yeah, you do you want to tell the folks what you were telling me just before we started? You don't
Well,
have to, but
there's quite a few of my folks in there.
yeah.
But yeah, we had some Zoom bombing problem at our group Tuesday, and it was a coordinated group working together via Twitter to attack our group. And I wasn't there. I wasn't, in charge of it or anything.
Yeah.
Because I gave that up to do the Thursday one and to do this and for some self-care, but
Right.
yeah, yeah, it happened, and it was very traumatic, and there was some pretty horrible things that were said, and so we had to lock down the meeting pretty severely last night, and I was working through some feelings because some people are angry at me about having to lock it down so tight, and people angry that it wasn't locked down in the first place. And the funny thing is this is the first time that we've had to deal with this in almost a year. It'll be 3 weeks, I think, till our 1 year anniversary of being on Zoom.
Wow, can you believe it?
I know, it's pretty crazy, but yeah, I mean, there's some good things that came of it. Is that my home group learned that putting our group on all of the websites at once is probably not the best idea, and that my controls, I use a Chromebook. I don't have all of the same safety functions as somebody who has a Windows machine. And so we learned that by having a little powwow and trying out different things. And so that was good to know. So I'll be using a Windows machine from now on. But yeah, it was hard, and it was difficult for me to just be okay with people not being happy with me, and yeah, my brain was, part of me was like, oh, I'm gonna have to not let some people in the group, and then they're gonna hate me, and then the teenage part of my brain is like, well, they'll deal with it, and some people already hate you, so it's okay.
Isn't that something that that you have to really control those Zoom meetings so tightly? I mean, it's like we could have a regular meeting in a room somewhere, and you don't have to worry about a bunch of people coming in with Nazi flags and yelling mean things and whatever. But on Zoom, it's like you have to be real careful. You have to throw people out if it comes down to it. Jeez.
Well, and I got some emails from Zoom, so they had found that we were, officially part of a targeted attack. So it wasn't just that, we assumed that. Zoom found the information and emailed us about it. So we'll have to change our ID and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a little bit freaky for me too, because I got reported to Zoom, and I didn't know that could happen. So there was part of me that was offended, and then the other part was somebody was probably just trying to help by reporting the incident, not knowing that Zoom would send me a strongly worded email
and blame you for it.
Yeah. So a lot of new learning this week, I guess, is what I've experienced. A lot of learning and working through some difficulties and problem solving, and yeah, that's the way I'm choosing to go with it. But it is frustrating that that we're dealing with this, and I do think that the other part of it is that that as part of AA, we always want to be open to, the next suffering alcoholic and newcomers and stuff like that. And so we want to make everything available as much as we can.
Right.
And we're living in a at time, and using technology where that's not always the best idea.
Yeah.
And so figuring out how we can go with the principles that we have in our recovery groups, and particularly our 12-step groups, and still act in a way where we're being safe for members, because some of what was happened was very, very violent language that that is particularly for women.
Sure.
Generally, I mean, there's a lot of men that are traumatized too, but particularly for us, when we hear some of that violent,
Sure.
aggressive language, it's difficult,
Sure.
and so I do take it seriously that that I want to have a group where people feel as safe as possible, and so what our group is going to do is have our information available. We have our own website that we've had for a long time, and that people can email to the email at that website to get the information.
To get the information for the meeting.
So they'll still be able to access it if they want to. So we're not hiding out, but it does put an extra layer between somebody, a Zoom bombing group, and whoever else.
I think that's a good idea. Joe was asking where not to post meeting information. So do you think that you should just, not post the Zoom link or the Zoom ID, but maybe just like if you want to come.
You can post, if you want to. I mean, each group gets to decide how they want to do it. So you can still post it if you want to, but I really think that having a middle layer between, your group and Zoom bombers is important. And so some people, their groups choose to do a intermediate purgatory room, like
I think that's what Oh My God does. Carolyn was asking about Oh My God.
And so, that's one of the ways that they do it. And it was something that, I considered, but, I'm not the only person in my group. So I do go with, group conscience on things. And I don't think a lot of the members of our group have gone to these really large meetings before. So I don't think that they were quite aware of what would be involved with that. But having a middle group room can also be helpful, where people come in and you do see them, or you have to see them, or do some sort of screening process, and then send them to a breakout room where the actual meeting is being held. So there's lots of options on what to do. And you don't necessarily have to change your information, except we do, because Zoom strongly suggested that we do that, and we agreed. But it was just kind of a surprising week, and it kind of goes with problem solving of how I went about making the decisions that I made, and I didn't do it all by myself. Some of them were unilateral, but I did work with several group members. And we had a little Zoom session where we, took turns trying out different things to close the mics and to shut down video, and to, should we have it be where all the mics are shut off at the beginning of the meeting, and should we have it where a shared screen is up the entire time, and so you only listen to people, or we tried out a few different things, and so I think we have a way forward for the next couple of weeks, and then we have a business meeting coming up where the group can either work on it at the business meeting, or do like a subcommittee to continue deciding what to do. But it was an exciting week for Zoom meetings.
Well, I know, when Carolyn was asking about Oh My God, I just remember from talking to Mikey that they have, like what Bria's suggesting, several people that monitor it and throw people out just as soon as possible. And they have that purgatory room that you were talking about. I'm not quite sure exactly how that works, but they do a lot of that stuff, and it's necessary because they'll have 100 people or so at the meeting.
This was like 70, I think,
Wow. My gosh.
and there were some things that needed to be adjusted. We did have more than one person who was hosting. There was one who was chairing the meeting, one person who was letting people in, and another person who was, helping monitor. And, there was some communication difficulties in the letting people in because one person wasn't aware that the other person was just letting everyone in, and so I think there needs to be some coordination in there of either just one person letting them in, because if the other person kicked the person out and they just tried to come back, and there's a lot of settings that you have to change beforehand, and that can't be changed until the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of learning that needed to happen, and mainly I need to use a Windows machine, and that will help a lot for being able to control some of the stuff. I'm not thinking we'll ever have this big of a problem again.
Right. You never know.
Yeah.
Bree says that she never lets anyone in that has a nickname. I never thought about that before.
Yeah. Yeah, I had emailed everybody in our group and who was on the email list, and told them what was going to happen for the Thursday night meeting, and that they needed to use their first name and last initial, and something that was recognizable. And so I only let people in, that were pretty recognizable. I did let a couple of people in that I thought, I wasn't quite sure if they, had been attending, but it looked familiar, and but I kept their video off, and they eventually left. So it worked out the way it worked out. I did have some feedback, because AAs love to give feedback. That, what if somebody was going to drink and they couldn't get into our meeting, and so my response was that, well, if somebody's sobriety depended on getting into our meeting, then they probably need more help than our meeting would have been able to give them.
Right.
And there are tons of meetings. And so our other thing is we're going to have a link to the email so that people can get the information for our meeting, but also the link to the AA online intergroup so that they can find another meeting if they can't get in. And so I think that should cover it. And if not, then people can write a resentment inventory on me. I'm good with it.
Well, Joe says that his group, they try to be as inclusive as possible, and they do have a lot of newcomers who come in with nebulous names and so forth. But I guess they still, I know that group, they probably have a couple of people watching and throw people out if they get out of hand pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But they've had bombers there in that group. I remember him talking about that before.
Yeah. I think they have a few people who are really, really on it with kicking people out and stuff too. We did have a problem with a couple of people that accidentally got kicked out because their names were similar to somebody else that was causing a problem. And so that also creates difficulty with trying to set up new standards because people are like, well, what if so-and-so gets kicked out, and so like I said, it's we have these principles that we've developed in AA, and they work really well for in-person meeting. Not perfectly. We still had issues with in-person meetings and people stalking and all of that fun stuff. But being on Zoom, we're in a new era of recovery, and so some things are going to have to be adjusted, and so we're facing some growing pains, I think, with that right now.
Yeah. Wow, it's amazing. But I do like your idea of just not posting the actual meeting information, but do like an email or whatever, like and then get the information, from that way. It's just maybe that's a good approach. It's bizarre. It's too bad that we have to deal with that kind of crap.
So
it's just
that goes
crazy.
into your problem solving. Like you learn
Yeah, problem solving. So I don't know how much. We'll see how we do with this. We'll see. I'm always surprised how well these live streams go for as little preparation as I put into it. But Angela, you you do a good job with this stuff. You're very well read and intelligent, so
thank you.
it's very helpful.
And I have lots of words, right?
You do.
Like
You have the best words. Oh Lord, this is crazy. Okay, so problem solving. So we're gonna talk about problem solving. So I guess that the whole deal is that, at least for me anyway, I. I lacked a lot of life skills, or I didn't get them in the first place, or I lost them somewhere along the way when I was active in my addiction, when I was drinking, and of course I was kind of young too, and I never really had the opportunity to live life in a normal kind of a way. So a lot of these things like problem solving and other just basic life skills weren't things that just came natural to me. Certainly during my drinking time, if there was a problem, I think I just practiced avoidance as much as possible, or I just somehow bounced around through life, and things just happened the way that they would happen. So, problem solving is just a basic life skill that, I guess I had to learn over time, and in my case, I learned it through just talking with people that were in recovery that I was meeting in the rooms. Now in this class that I took, they did lay out some basic steps for problem solving, which I thought was interesting. They defined a problem. They said that a problem is a situation or set of conditions that are preventing you from doing what you want to do. Problem behaviors are what you do that helps create and sustain the problem. So a situation or set of conditions that prevent you from doing what you want to do is what they say a problem is. That's interesting. And
so, when you don't want to drink and you continue to drink.
Yeah. Or I guess so. We'll kind of go through this, I guess. The key to problem solving is to stand outside the problem and view it with some sense of objectivity. To never make a major decision until you're clear that there are at least two options. And to have some awareness that there's always multiple ways of coming to a solution.
Okay.
So I don't know if I picked that up in AA. What I seem to remember, the way that I would deal with a problem was a lot of times through the inventory process, I think is what I would do. If I was really puzzled about what to do about something, I would always kind of go through the inventory process where I would just kind of examine my motives and fears and all that kind of crap, and then talk it over with someone, and then come to some sort of a decision of what action I needed to take care of that situation. I don't know. What did you do for problem solving when you were kind of early on in your sober life?
I think early on, I would take it to the group. That was probably my first thing. And I would take, just about anything to the group. If I lost my keys and got ticked about it, or, I was having difficulties with someone at work, or, I literally, I would bring just about anything to the group. And oftentimes first, because usually there was a group accessible faster than my sponsor sometimes. And so then I get input from a lot of different people. And sometimes, they would say stuff like, pray about it.
Pray about it. Did you pray about it? Actually, I got that a lot too. Did you pray about it?
Yeah. Did you pray about it?
Oh, there you go. That's a solution right there.
And the solution was for me to come to this group and punch you in the face. But just hearing a lot of different ideas usually helped me, one, gain perspective. So was discussed on there. getting perspective on things. And so I sometimes, would hear that, some people thought that my issue was, not important. And sometimes, people would share, that they had the same issue and this is how they handled it. And so, yeah, so part of my problem solving skills today are talking to people, that I trust, or, respect, or who may just have experience in the area that I need to figure something out. So, I said before that when my car breaks down, I go to a mechanic because they generally know. Well, first I talk to my partner, and then he looks it up on YouTube, and then we decide if we have the skills and tools to do it ourselves. And sometimes we do, but yeah, consulting a mechanic for something with a car, and I don't necessarily let whoever the expert is or whoever I consult make the idea or make the decision for me, but I listen, and then I weigh what I think the best move forward is based on that. And so, yeah, so problem solving for me, it depends on what the problem is, but early in sobriety, a lot of it was just asking other people what they did, to get some ideas, because, a lot of my tools were no longer working for me, which is why I would go to alcohol and other behaviors to try to avoid or escape, the problems that I had. And so, yeah, so looking to other people and hearing different ideas, would give me something to consider. And often my solution was a hybrid of a lot of different things.
Quite similar. I did the same thing. I would go to the group. I talked to several different people. I'd get different ideas from different people. There would be some people that I trusted, and their advice on what to do. And I would lean on that a lot when I had some sort of a problem I had to solve. That's pretty much what I did. I've always been kind of a writer. When I'm perplexed or somewhat messed up, I write to figure out what's going on in my brain. And then I also make lists a lot. And making the list is actually a pretty good thing, because when I make the list, I can actually see some options to some possible solutions, by just kind of making a list, writing a list out. But in this class I took, they said that the first step to problem solving is to ask yourself, what is the current situation? And what is the current situation? We got a call already. What is the current situation keeping me from doing that I would like to do? So think about that as I take this call from, I bet you anything it's Fred. We'll see. Hello. Welcome to the Beyond Belief.
This is a great topic. Yes. Hello, John.
Hi.
And Angela.
Hello, Fred.
This is a really great topic. Hi. I can really thank you for this interesting discussion tonight, because intuition, rational thoughts, logic, analysis, and scientific methods have all been used. But there's nothing like simplicity, and the more lessons we learn in solving problems, the better we react with our coping skills.
Right.
Trial and error, difference reduction, means to the end analysis, working backwards to try to find out, what the cause was, and analogies. So, analogies can also be previous lessons learned that you remember what your mom or dad told you, or somebody described something that their lesson learned had an ultimate satisfaction. And this is all I have to say about it, is that if you don't drink and go to meetings, and you don't pick up, you won't get drunk. So, all you have to do is follow your own footsteps to the path that you want to be on. in order to create your own experiences that can help modify our success in living sober.
Yeah.
There used to be a book called Living Sober, and I thought that was one of the best books because it really didn't go into any religiosity so much as to all, structure. And when we get all these problems and you realize I'm sober, I'm happy, my life is okay, I'm well, or some of these things, and you start complaining about these problems that are really, of our own making, and then we look at it and we say, oh, it's so terrible. But it's not as bad as if you were in the gutter,
Right.
or you didn't have a place to live, or you were in the barroom floor, or in the bathroom after being beat up, or somebody knocked you senseless, or you lost all your money, or all these kinds of things. So, tell those Zoom people they gotta try to understand that we're not perfect and we made a lot of mistakes, but we learn from our mistakes, and that's the solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't repeat. Try not to repeat it. That's all.
There you go.
So I said a lot. So
Well, thank you for calling, and I'm glad that you found the topic interesting. That makes me feel good right there. So thank you so much for calling. I appreciate it. Always nice to hear from you, Fred. Always nice to hear from you. I like what you said about working a problem backwards. That sounds like something that they would do at NASA or something like that. But sounds like a good idea. Thank you so much, Fred.
Well, thanks. I just make suggestions, and it's up to you all to try to do the best you can, because I was already through that rigmarole where people vote on it and they do all this kind of stuff. And by the time you solve the problem, you don't have a problem anymore because it was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So, I always tell, I have a sibling, and I always talk with her sometimes. I say, I have 47 problems today. I had 48 yesterday. She said, what happened? I said, I fixed one. Guess what? I have 52 now.
Oh, okay.
So it's like you get rid of one and one more comes back. So you just laugh at yourself and you go on. That's all, because it's a constant effort to try to get over a problem.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get rid of one, you're going to get another one. So don't worry about it. That's a good thing about getting older in sobriety, because you realize all these things after the fact, and you can share it with other people so they understand better.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
Have
a good week, okay?
You too. You too. Take care, Fred.
Okay.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bobbert mentioned something that actually kind of helped me too. He went back to school. I went to school after being sober for 10 years, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it did help me too with my critical thinking and was what I got, the benefit I got from that. But yeah, education is a good thing, I guess.
Yeah. But, I loved college too. And what I liked about it was that, they did ask questions and they wanted you to answer them.
Right.
And were interested in your answers. And I found in the working world that generally was not the case.
Yeah.
And so, some of it was just the places I worked in and the atmosphere. But that's one of the reasons why I love school so much. It was like, oh, wow, you really are interested in what I have to say. Well, I have a lot to say. But yeah, so that we're talking about a problem as defined as a situation or a set of conditions that prevent you from doing what you want to do,
which is kind of interesting. It's kind of, I guess they're looking at it as through the lens of trying to help somebody move on with their recovery. So in other words, somebody has an
Yeah.
obstacle that's preventing them from moving ahead in their life, and you want to help identify that obstacle and possible solutions to it. I just had to put this comment up there from Anchor because it's kind of funny. Anchor says that living sober is a bit dated. And the reason I started laughing about that is Eric C. from Michigan posted something in our Facebook group about the big book, and I haven't yet seen the video, but apparently GSO came out with this video about how they're thinking about changing the big book a little bit with more modern language or something.
Yeah.
And they put this video out there, and I haven't yet seen it, but Eric said that in the video, they were kind of making it clear that the main problem with the big book is that we're not literate enough to really understand, I guess, what it's trying to say.
Yeah. We haven't studied history, so we don't know the context. And so instead of making it more universal for today, we need to teach history to understand the language from 1930s.
Yeah, but Living Sober was written in 1970s. That's our most recent book.
Right. Yeah.
Our most recent, the other one's like 85 years old, which is pretty old. But I guess the looking at step one of the problem solving is what is the current situation, and what is the current situation keeping me from doing that I'd like to do. I think it might be something just as simple as something that keeps me awake at night, or something that's just weighing on me, depressing me, or causing me to worry, or anything along those lines. My current situation could be that I'm not sleeping at night. That's a problem. And it's keeping me from being this is actually happening to me now. That's why I was coming up with it. I actually had a good night's sleep last night, but I've not been sleeping well. I have just not been sleeping well, and it does affect me. I don't think as good as I do if I sleep well. It's just a real pain in the butt.
So what have you been doing to try to?
I'm going to work on it right.
Should we problem solve your?
Yes, let's problem solve. So I'm not sleeping well. I'm just not sleeping well, and it's causing me. And what is it keeping me?
What does it look like when you do sleep well?
Oh,
what does that look like? Like, is it 8 hours of sleep?
Well, here's the thing.
Problems falling asleep?
8 hours.
Staying asleep?
8 hours of sleep would be good. 8 hours of just constant sleeping where I don't have to get up in the middle of the night or whatever. That would be nice, where I'm just, I need 8 hours of sleep. And I like to get up early. So it'd be nice if I could go to bed around 10 o'clock and I wake up around 6. That's about the time frame that I like to do it. But, the problem that I've been doing, here's the bottom line, is I'm just not practicing good sleep hygiene. In other words, I'm on my computer late at night, and they always suggest that, you shut that computer off like an hour or something before you go to sleep. Sometimes I'll have I'll listen to a podcast or something while I fall asleep. I got all kinds of crap going on around me. I'm not really getting myself ready to actually sleep, and just calm down. That's part of the problem. But, so
good sleep hygiene.
Good sleep hygiene would be good. So my current situation, I guess, would be that, I'm not sleeping, and it's keeping me from, being a nice, productive employee and, happy guy all the way around. What is Bob saying here? Something about Walter Hagen. There's a big book reference about Walter Hagen. And of course, I don't know who Walter Hagen is, but he was a very well-known golfer back in the 1930s, I guess. Anyway.
Wow. Yeah. Well, so, with sleeping, I have difficulties too. And so some of the stuff when I'm experiencing that I think about is, again, sleep hygiene, like you said. And so am I looking at the computer or have a lot of bright lights on, or TV or things like that? Is that part of my problem? I find that I tend to I forget what the term is, but if I don't get a lot of time to myself during the day, if I'm either working a lot or, a lot of people have needed my attention, things like that, then I seem to stay awake like a revenge type of a thing,
No.
And it's only with myself. But it's I didn't get enough time to really, be by myself and just, think about things or space off or do whatever. And so I have to watch that and try to be aware of that. I do have, before, this current phone that I had, we have those lights that do natural light to wake you up, but you can also set them so that they start to dim at a certain time. And so if say you're trying to do better with going to bed at night and falling asleep, you can set it so that you don't have your computer or your phone or anything on. And you can either be reading a book or listening to music or something, and then that will slowly dim the lights so that it feels like it's evening, and your body gets the signal that it's time to start going to sleep or preparing for sleep. And so that's been helpful to me sometimes, using that tool. So that my body's aware of, this is what we're doing now, because my mind still would like to think about all sorts of strange things and ideas. But if my body starts to realize that, this is what we're doing, we're going to sleep, then that can help, bring my mind into alignment sometimes. So that's one of the tools that I use as well. I also find that I can't, listen to interesting podcasts later in the evening, because then, I'm wanting to think about that. And then I need to research this. And then what's this person's name and where'd they come from? And oh my goodness, what is that school? I've never heard of that school. Where's that located? And oh my gosh, I didn't know that Ireland had this island, and, and so I get, in a tunnel, a YouTube tunnel or a Wikipedia tunnel, that kind of a thing. So that's one of the things that I can't do. I do sometimes decompress in the evenings with TV. Not like standard TV. Lately, I've gotten into the show The Mentalist, and I usually do not watch shows like this. So it's like one of those basic crime drama type things where the guy's a consultant who specializes in reading people. So he lived as a psychic, one of those TV psychics, and just kind of took advantage of people, and then something happened, and so he went good to redeem himself. And and it's very predictable, and it's always got the other character who wants to play by the book, and this guy's doing crazy stuff, and and so it's the same thing every episode. But I do find it relaxing, having something that's just kind of predictable like that to watch, and then my brain slowly can calm down. And so that I've been, doing that some. I can't read before bed because I generally don't remember what I read. Yeah. And it sends a signal to my brain that reading is boring or that, and I don't want that to be the case because I enjoy reading. So I don't do that. Sometimes I listen to music that is, has like those calming subliminal messages and things like that. That's helpful to me, and can be peaceful and restful. Those are some of the different tools that I try to employ when, particularly with sleep. Also making sure, when did I stop, drinking coffee?
Oh God, and I'm drinking coffee right now, as a matter of fact. I'm not going to sleep so well tonight. Bond's comment really touches me here. She says that, or Bond, I'm sorry, Bond. I don't know, male, female, it doesn't matter. But Bond says that she took care of her. I don't know. I hate this. I don't know the gender. It's so stupid. But Bond had to take care of her mother for 5 years of sobriety, and just has to figure out who she or he is. And I'm sorry, the gender thing is driving me crazy. But that's that would be tough, but I'm glad that you're sober. And I'm glad that you know that you need to figure out who you are, and that you will find a path to do that. Bond is female. Thank you, Bond. Gosh, thank you. I try to use really gender neutral pronouns as much as possible, and sometimes it's difficult to do. But anyway, so thank you, Bond, and thank you for your comment. That was really nice of you to share that part of yourself with us. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, onto this problem solving thing. So, the next step is to look at the impact of the problem. So, how am I negatively impacting the situation or helping to create the problem? And that's kind of the stuff that we were talking about. So, if you're not sleeping, what are you doing? Listening to podcasts, watching TV, doing stuff like that isn't, you're not practicing good sleep hygiene. We whatever. So that's what I'm doing. Right. So those are the first two steps. You look at the situation and how it's causing a problem in your life. What's it preventing you from doing? And what are you doing to help make the problem worse? Then you take a look at the cost benefit. So if the problem is not resolved, what's the cost in the short term? If you don't resolve the problem, what's the cost in the short term? And what's going to happen in the long term? If the problem is resolved, what are some of the short-term benefits and what would be some of the long-term benefits? So this is where you probably want to get out a pencil, paper, pen and paper, whatever, and kind of write out some of the cost, the short-term cost of not sleeping. Short-term costs could be, problems at work, not being able to make good decisions, being cranky later in the day, not wanting to take my dog for a W, or different things like that. Not me getting into it.
Your dog's in the room.
She is actually.
I love that. Not taking my dog for a W. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
See, I wouldn't, if Toby was here, I wouldn't even be able to say take because he recognizes take. So
it's
but
crazy,
yes,
these dogs.
funny.
And you call them pedestrian excursions?
Yeah, we have you, let's see, I think we just say pedestrian experience.
There you go. There you go.
Has he had a pedestrian experience? I think that's the general one. Although I think he's getting suspicious of he now. We may have to adjust that as well. But that's crazy. Generally been it. But yeah, from what you were saying, back to, sorry, dogs get me distracted.
So you look at the short term, short term costs. So like short term costs would be like, just basic things like, having a hard time at work, stuff like that. And then long term costs would be like health problems.
Yeah.
That could come from this. Yeah. From not sleeping.
Yeah.
And then you take a look at, if you do resolve the problem, what are some of the short term benefits? Well, I already know because I slept good last night and I had a good day at work today. And I was, first of all, I wasn't irritable when things happen, because things happen at work that irritate me, they easily. And sometimes I can just let them roll off my back or whatever. And sometimes they just really bug me. And today, nothing really but bugged me. I was like, okay, because I think it helped because I was rested,
Yeah.
And I didn't make rash decisions either. If I'm really tired, I just make stupid rash decisions. I just act off the cuff. I'm not really stopping to think well. So those are, so some of the short-term benefits would be that I'm better off at work, and I'm not so cranky. I have better, I'm just happy. And probably I'm going to exercise and get do something other than just be a couch potato or whatever. I don't know. So those are some of the short term. Yeah, great. Then of course some of the short term benefits, and then what are some of the long term benefits? And long term benefits would just be, probably better health and that kind of stuff. So this, and you could do this with any kind of a problem, serious, not serious, whatever. But sleep is a pretty good one to work on.
One of the things that I've been doing lately is asking myself, what assumptions am I making about whatever the problem is? So what are the things that I assume are going to happen, or other people think,
that's really good.
Things like that. So yeah.
Because sometimes those assumptions really aren't accurate.
Right. Yeah. So it's again getting some perspective on it, but it's a different way to phrase it for me. Sometimes when I'm having difficulty and someone says, "Oh, maybe you should call someone and get a different perspective," or something like that, then I get cranky about that, because it sounds therapeutic and blah, But if I if I phrase it in what assumptions am I making, that takes me into basically the same place, but using different words. And it seems more interesting to me and stuff. And sometimes I'm willing to do that work because it's phrased in a different way. The other thing is being kind to my future self. So, what is this problem, and is there a way that I can resolve it, or if I were resolving it, how would that be being kind to my future self? And so some of those are things that I've learned about, money and budgeting. The example that's often used by me and other people I've heard is like with being late to work. I don't have to worry about it anymore because but in the past and in early sobriety, that was a real issue for me, and there were lots of reasons for it. Mainly I didn't want to go to work.
Right.
I just needed health insurance and money. What I learned from that is that maybe if I leave 10 minutes early, then that helps me, or 10 minutes earlier than I was leaving. That's helpful because then not only do I get to work generally on time, but also I'm less cranky because there's less assholes on the road.
Exactly.
When I'm not in a hurry.
Exactly. I remember that. I'd always wait to the last minute to go to work. So now I'm anxious already, right? Because I'm going to be late, and I'm anxious with traffic. I'm getting ticked off before I even get to work. And of course, it's everybody else on the road that's pissing me off because they're keeping me from getting to work on time. Or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and another minor example is when I eat stuff or use up a dish or do things like that, putting it directly into the dishwasher. We started doing that, and then I've been implementing that with, my mom and my nieces here now. And so working on that. And then, when you put it into the dishwasher, then you don't have to, take it from the counter and put it in the dishwasher later, and then turn on the dishwasher. And so it's being kinder and saving a step rather than just letting things build up on the counter and being cranky about that and somebody else not doing it. And why do I always have to do it? And and those kinds of things. So being kind to my future self on, making decisions or doing things rather quickly. So I think it goes along with that is it easier to do something, than not to do something? So is it easier to do something right now, take out the garbage? Is it easier for me to just grab it, take it out right now, or, let it sit there and then get, grumpy with, other people on whose turn it is to take out the garbage? And, yes, I may take it out more times than the other people, but it's saving me some, heartache if the garbage is just out there. I have the ability to do it. So I think about, is it easier to do something about it? Also is because, that takes up mental and emotional bandwidth, so if I'm sitting here obsessing about, what somebody's not doing or, some sort of issue, if I just take care of it, send the email, whatever it is that I need to do, then that frees up, the space that I was using to obsess about, whatever it was. And so, and that's helpful for me to think about, because that helps me regain my ability to concentrate on things that are important and that I do want to work on.
Okay. So we're coming up to the last couple steps now for problem solving as far as from this program thing that I took. The next step would be to brainstorm. So you want to think about 5 to 7 possible ways to solve the problem. And we kind of already done that. We kind of went through different solutions to the sleep problem, of I shouldn't drink coffee. I should not be drinking coffee right now. My thing about coffee is I have to have coffee if I'm like in an AA meeting or talking to somebody in for whatever reason, I got to have coffee. It's crazy. But that's what I do. And coffee for me is it's sort of in a way comforting, but it's comforting when I'm drinking it. But when I'm ready to go to bed at night and then my brain is buzzing around, it's not going to be so great. anyway, you think about 5 to 7 possible ways to solve the problem, you know, and then after you do that, you look at some actions that you're going to take. So, first of all, you list the problems, you brainstorm what all the different solutions are, and then you think about the pros and cons of each of those solutions, and then you select the 2 best solutions from that list. And then you think about what actions you need to take to begin working on those solutions. So in our case, you know, it could be like, you know, my solutions would be to turn off the television at least 1 hour before bedtime, not get on the computer an hour before bedtime, you know, to have that winding down period before I go to bed, things like that. And then, you know, I could list a whole list of things and then choose the best couple of ones and then think about the action to take. So I don't know, just having a process like that to go through kind of helps in a way to feel like, you know, you have some sort of control over these problems or trying to solve problems. But it's really empowering when you think about it. I mean, I've talked about this before, but one of the things that was really sad for me, I guess, from my drinking and even in my early recovery was to have people sit around and try to figure out what to do with me. You know, it was like I was the fucked up person that everyone had to figure out what to do with. And they would say, well, maybe you should do this, or, you know, and I'm not that anymore. And that to me just shows that I have experienced some recovery because that was me. I was the fucked up person. And I've seen that before in cases with other people who have unfortunately, you know, drank themselves into really, really bad situations. And the the family sits around trying to figure out what to do to help the person, you know? So I'm just so glad that I'm not in that position now where I have to experience that, you know? So problem solving, we've actually
Was that the last part?
Huh?
Was that the last part you read?
I think so. Yeah. The last part, the last part is actually just figuring out what action to take with the problem solving thing. So anyway.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I think some of the stuff that would have tripped me up from using, you know, that tool is what is the best. Like, because I was one of the people that have trouble with multiple choice questions and tests because I can think of how each one could be true given, you know, the right parameters.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I would probably obsess about which one is the best. So, so I would, you know, need to change the language to, you know, just, you know, what are the possibilities and which ones, you know, do I want to try first? You know, which couple of them can I give a good effort to and see if they're helpful. And so, you know, keeping it open that there are lots of possibilities and I've written some down. So, you know, if this one doesn't work out and I've given it a try for a week, that, you know, I can go down the list and try some other things. So yeah, so that's one of the things that my brain does, and that's one of the things I love about, you know, recovery too, is that I've gotten to know it quite a bit better, and so I have options now on how to handle it, and I know that oftentimes, you know, it's going to be oppositional to the first couple of suggestions, you know, depending on what they are and who's giving them. And yeah, just having an awareness of that's the way that my brain, you know, functions sometimes has helped me with, you know, problem solving, because I know that I need to add a buffer of time in there to consider other people's ideas. And, you know, because, you know, I'll ask people for their, you know, experience and or opinion. And, you know, again, depending on who it is, I might be like, no,
Right.
or I might get offended or, you know, all of that. So being aware that those are possibilities is helpful for problem solving as well, and has helped me to not create additional problems when I'm trying to problem solve, which I did a lot in early recovery.
Yeah. Well, I guess to close up, I also want to say that I was really pleasantly surprised when I posted about changing the name of the podcast and how well received that was. Everybody really seemed to like that. I thought, wow, that's cool, and it was a lot easier to do than I thought it would be. I was able to keep the YouTube channel, just change the name of it. I was able to just change the name of the Facebook group. The podcast itself, people can still find it. I got a nice website for it, so it just went real well. And Angela, I have to thank you because you're the one that suggested. I was originally thinking about taking this podcast that I had, the My Secular Sobriety, and using that. But you suggested to leave the Beyond Belief name in there because it would help people still recognize, right? To still have some familiarity with it. And so we were looking at different Beyond Belief Sobriety. That's what we ended up calling it. Yeah.
Sobriety Beyond Belief.
Sobriety Beyond Belief. And I was going to,
or did we want to do recovery or whatever? But your experience, even though you're exploring recovery in a broader term, your experience is based on sobriety, and that's where your strong point is. So I thought that it fit you a lot better to keep with the sobriety term, and then the Beyond Belief is something that people recognize within the secular community, and what I think a lot of people are looking for when they're trying to get help, particularly if they're already in AA, or the AA is the only game in town, things like that, that they'll be looking for some of the terms like this. So yay, I'm glad that it worked out and that people like it, and are there wasn't a lot of resistance, and now there's like 2,300 people in the Facebook group, and so so it's kind of crazy.
That's the new website, Bree. I just put it out there for you, but beyondbeliefsobriety.com.
So good job.
So I'm real happy with that, and I'm glad. The Facebook group, I'm leaving it as it is, as AA Beyond Belief, because Joe, I am. And the reason for that, I'm thinking, is that a lot of the people in the Facebook group, they don't really know about the podcast or listen to the podcast or engage with the podcast. It's not really, that group might have started out as a group that was centered around a website and a podcast, but it became something completely different. It's now a community of people who are seeking secular sobriety within Alcoholics Anonymous. And so you have most of the posts that go on there are about, letting people know about meetings, letting people posting about what's going on in their lives and the struggles that they're dealing with.
How to work steps in a secular way.
I mean, there's real practical stuff that's going on there, and it's all centered around AA, a secular approach to AA. Yeah. So I think that should be as it is. And I'll still post the, podcast episodes there, I guess, as long as people don't mind. But the group is evolving, and now we've got a bunch of different moderators, and they, I think they're going to get together and talk. But I think that group is just kind of, it's going to take care of itself, which is nice to see. So.
Yeah. And I've been surprised that while there is a crossover from people in the group, the Facebook group, there are a lot of people that just listen to the podcast that aren't part of Facebook or, part of the Facebook group and enjoy that as well. And so that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Bobbert said that he had to subscribe and unsubscribe and subscribe again on iTunes to reestablish a connection. I did not know that because of the new name. What I did is, what I thought I did successfully was just forward the feed from AA Beyond Belief to Beyond Belief Sobriety, but apparently that might not have worked too well. So thanks for letting me know about that, Bobbert. I might have to look into that. But apparently you were able to find it okay. So you just had to unsubscribe and then subscribe again.
That's good to know. I wouldn't know because I don't actually listen to this podcast.
That's cool.
I've heard it's good though.
I subscribed to it actually, but I can't remember what I had to do. So
I support it on YouTube. But
yes, you do. And I appreciate that. Bree says, is that the same too, or is the coffee fund different? Coffee fund. No, you can still support the podcast the same way. So the buy the coffee thing, you can still do that, and that works. PayPal still works. Everything is still the same as far as financial support of the podcast. Is all that stuff is the same. So I can post a link to the coffee thing. If anybody wants to buy a cup of coffee, I'll do that real
I don't
quick.
know. It sounds like you maybe need to cut back.
Yeah.
So do you promise that you'll stop drinking it by 6 p.m. so you can sleep? Then they
Yeah,
can
I do. I'm pretty good during the week. It's just on Friday nights when we do the live stream is when I start drinking coffee and stay up late. But whatever. I got a weird situation going on here right now. My wife Susan, she is now staying at her dad's house for like the next 4 to 5 weeks because he had a stroke.
Oh dear, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, he's had a couple of strokes. The first couple just kind of affected him cognitively a bit. And now this last one kind of affected him physically. And not kind of, it did. And so she's going to take care of him for about 4 to 5 weeks. And she's glad that she can do it. But so now I'm in this house and I did this when she was going through her surgery. And all I've got is the dog and the 2 cats. And I actually spent a lot of time talking to them, which was really bizarre. And it's like animals know and the poor puppy dog, Bonnie, she just loves Susan so much.
Aww.
She is by Susan's side constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly. And so it's really hard on her to not have Susan around. So I hope Susan can come and visit or whatever. It's just kind of weird having her away. But
no, that's what Jonathan and I have been dealing with. And just recently he went to go and get his mom because she may need surgery.
Oh, that's right.
And doing health stuff. And Toby goes on hunger strike usually the first day or two when Jonathan leaves. And he won't eat his food. And and then it, after a day or so and enough UPS guys and FedEx trucks go by that he's ready to, go for his food again so they don't get to it. But yeah, animals are so sweet and caring, and I hope that she starts to feel secure and happy again. And that your wife will get to visit, or maybe Bonnie can have overnights, or that kind of thing. So good luck with that, and I hope that.
Thank you. And thank you to Angela for making this a successful live stream. That's, I say this every Friday, but honest to God, when we start, I'm like, how are we going to do this? Because I'm looking at this problem solving thing and it's like one page. So anyway.
Yes,
so,
it's our authenticity.
We're
authentically just trying to think about how we do things, and
of course everybody out there in the chat too helps out a lot too. And Fred calling in, and I should have announced the phone number so people could call get more callers, but that's okay too. Just the chat just seems to help out a lot. So that's another episode of the new Beyond Belief Sobriety podcast. And thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll be back again Friday for another live stream. And also, I am behind on posting podcast episodes. I know that. But I'm going to be getting some out here really soon. I've got some good ones that have been recorded and edited and ready to go. So look for those coming out real soon. Take care, everybody. We'll be back again real soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.